Okay, in Domain 5, we're looking at assessment and particularly comparing assessment between early childhood setting and primary school. Francis is in early childhood, I'm in primary, working with a Oars-funded student, and we're just going to talk about the different assessment practices that we use. So Francis, in early childhood, what assessment practices do you use to inform the next learning steps for your students?
So, because I'm working as the teacher on floor, so I get to work with the children and all the different children day to day. What is good in our center, we use the system is every child got their own individual learning profile to record the children's learning, including, their learning plan, their learning goal, and all the assessments, everything, their learning example. So the system we use is quite commonly used in early childhood education is like the cycle of recognize, and then from the noticing, and then we recognize what learning is going on. Then how we respond, that's like how are we going to do planning. It's basically
so you observe, you do a lot of observing.
Yeah.
Photographs?
Yes, photographs and the written observation.
And written observation. So that comes together as a like a learning story.
It's more than that. So because we do like noticing, then we respond. That's basically like our spontaneous, as well as like a long-term planning. And then at the end, we always like put everything together and assess the children's like progress, as well as like revisit, even with the children revisit the experience. So the children themselves, we can notice what kind of progress from where they were to where they are.
Okay. So you take it from like a child-centered,
yes,
child-led learning.
Yes. And teacher co-constructs the learning activities.
The next learning steps and activities. And do parents and whānau, do they contribute to this type of assessment?
Yes, because we will share, we use the learning story, we share what we observed, what the children are interested, and because the learning story is also, it will be shared with the parents, it's for everyone to look at, so we will have a multi-voice even from the children themselves. We will ask them what do you do, and then also parents' feedback, and the other teacher, your colleagues, with their observation, what their perspective to get is a really
so they
good
can
picture.
All contribute. So you're seeing it through your assessment of that child is through different eyes, isn't it? Through different eyes.
Yes. So it's reflect our like principles of holistic development. You need to get multi-voice. So it's really kind of like evidence-based.
And it's formative assessment, so it informs the next learning steps for the student.
Yeah, the circle is always keep going. Once it exists, then what's the next step? Then start another circle. So what I like about our assessment is keep change is evolving, as also is individual,
right?
And as well as like got a lot of voice in it.
So
but at the same time, this assessment is also trial and error, because for children, the nature of our children, like in early childhood, is free play.
Right.
So actually, for teachers, also is a trial and error. You might put something. Actually, that's what the child really interested in, and then you plan another thing.
Okay. So one of my roles at the moment is I release teachers within the school, and the school that I'm working at the moment have embraced play-based learning. So we, it's not learning stories, but at the end of each session, I will put together like a reflection on play, which sounds a little bit similar to to your learning story. So we look at where the child is at, what applications we could use to sort of get that deep level of play and to see that growth in learning.
So I'm interested in how do you document what you like, your reflection?
We don't have like a formal document. So one class I'll be in there only once a week. Yeah. So at the end of that day, so during play-based learning, I will take lots of photos, and then when I get home that night or later that afternoon, even just going through the photos really just sort of jogs your memory of what happened.
Agree.
And the conversations that were had. So for me, it's almost like we call it a brain dump. Like we just put it all down on paper, and I share that with the class teacher.
Oh, great.
And then that sort of informs next learning steps for the next day. And we'll put in, maybe provocations to try and get to that deeper level of play and to extend their learning, which is really,
Oh, great. It sounds like, it's also got to work really close together,
Yeah.
because I think that's really important in the assessment.
But the thing I really like about your learning stories is very similar to like narrative assessments, which I've been looking at in this domain as well. So the last 4 years I worked as an additional teacher for an ALS-funded student. I use more sort of formative and summative assessment, standard ones in the primary school, like running records, where you assess their reading level and spelling tests and things like that. But having learned about narrative assessment, it focuses more on the key competencies of the New Zealand curriculum, which focusing on that, it comes from you can really look at what the student can do, which is very similar to your learning story. So what they can do and what the next step is, rather than working, especially for students with additional needs that could feel very much works or can work on a deficit model if you're constantly assessing against the curriculum, whereas we take the student from, that they are a capable, curious learner and that they will continue to learn. So the key competencies are very much about lifelong learning.
Okay. So because I haven't started the Domain 5 study, so it's like narrative assessment is quite new for me. So does narrative assessment mean like you focus on the children's strength, what the child can do?
Yes.
And then from there you plan for the activity or whatever, like academic activities or social
activities. So it's
activities.
very much like your learning story, like the learner is at the centre, and then we have the key competencies around the child, so it's child-centred, and then the learning areas, and then effective pedagogy that will link in with that as well.
Yes,
so
they're quite similar.
Yes, so from my end, I haven't done one yet, but I'm really keen to try one, is that the basic frame of a narrative assessment is that you'll have a background information about the child, so their age, what they like, whether, their families.
Previous experience.
Yeah, just, the things about that child, so getting to know the child. And then the middle part will be made up of 2 or 3 learning stories with photos and of what they are doing and what the next steps are. And then the third part will be sort of a reflective, formative, sort of bringing it all together, with the next learning steps, and then how the pedagogy would affect your learning and teaching.
So everyone can access that, the profile?
That's so the Ministry of Education produced a document called Narrative Assessment, a guide for teachers, and it's also got exemplars in there called Through Different Eyes. So it's very similar to what you were talking about, where basically, all the people that are involved with the child, so the family, the child, the teacher aides, the teachers, the additional teachers, specialist teachers can actually add to that.
That's really good though. You've got that system, because then everyone work really together in the same pace.
What I like about your one is that that's for everybody. It's not a separate kind of assessment for children with additional needs. Your learning stories across the early
individual
childhood.
planning.
So you don't have to do anything different or separate different from if you've got a child with additional needs.
I guess that's what we call inclusive education.